the Spa Parade, one of the most anticipated events on the SRO GT World Challenge calendar. The teams were not so happy about it. It's a bit dangerous and risky to send a car from the track down to the city, especially if you're doing a lot of start-stop action, which is really just not what race cars do. So we got a new car for Spa. It's the all-new 296 GT3. The 296 clutch notoriously burns out, and unfortunately ours did. Thankfully, he thought ahead. He put in an old clutch just for the parade, just in case that this was gonna happen. And unfortunately, we had stopped, I don't know, maybe like 5 or 6 times, and the last time it was going up a hill, and you manual drivers, you know how difficult it is to start a manual car up on a hill, so it was just like terrible for the clutch. Burnt out, had to be towed back to the track. But thankfully the team was following me, so they picked me up. But tragic end to our parade experience. For the 24-hour Spa, we have your typical 2 co-drivers, Jon and Isaac, but we're also joined by a 3rd driver, Leo Weiss, this weekend. He's very experienced in this car. He's run with Rinaldi for many years. Super awesome dude. I mean, he's so chill. My favorite part was that he wears this like pizza bucket hat to the grid at every race, so love that. He also is competing in the 24-hour series. Won the 24-hour of Nürburgring. Forgot to mention that. So it was actually his 296 that we got to test prior to the 24-hour Spa. We did a 2-day test, our only 2-day test that we did this season in the Ferrari.
Thinking about how the race went, Isaac started the race and it had just rained. We'd kind of been dodging the rain all week, hadn't really done a whole lot of running in the rain. I believe qualifying was wet, but that was the only rain running we did. And leading up to the race start, that morning it had rained, but it wasn't currently raining. We're on the grid trying to decide what tires Isaac is going to go on. And ultimately the team decided, okay, it looks like everybody else is going for dries, we're going to go for dries. And ultimately it was the right call because the race director decided to start the race under safety car.
So this is the 75th edition of the 24-hour Spa. Iconic GT3 race, quite literally the biggest GT3 race in the world. This year they tried to have 75 cars enter. I think we ended up with 72 if I remember correctly, but makes it very difficult.
You've got the pro class cars all the way down to pro-am class and everything in between. And everybody's trying to kind of mind their own business and stay within their own race. But at a certain point, you find yourself in these groups of cars and you don't know what class is in front of you or behind you. You're just fighting for position. You don't want to let the guy behind you pass even if he's not in your class, and you're trying to get through the car in front of you who might not be in your class because the car that is in your class is 2 cars up the road. So you do the best that you can to manage and not get in each other's way, but at the end of the day, it's a race, and these are all the same spec of cars. So everybody's pushing.
With this new 296 GT3, it handles very differently from the BMW, which I got to drive at the 24-hour Spa last year. So I was very much looking forward to seeing the differences between the 2 cars, namely the aerodynamics of the 296 around Spa. And Eau Rouge was still just as terrifying as it was last year. Again, we're flat through turn 1 all the way up the hill, but you kind of hold your breath, you turn in for the first left, and then you turn right, and it's kind of like a point and shoot because once you start going up, all you can see is the sky. So every time it's like really you're just hoping to not be over the track limits, and you really have to nail it precisely every single time, and you're going over 200 kilometers an hour through this corner, and it's a roller coaster ride. I was in the trailer fresh out of a cat nap, trying to wake myself up, play my little rhythm game on my phone, listening to music. About to get in the car, or at least I went into the garage to get ready, and then, you know, we get the radio call that Jon got hit. It was a 3-car incident. He got hit, and it was like the tiniest little bump, like a little. But because it was in the exact same spot that Isaac got hit, we lost a bearing in the transmission. Thankfully, Jon was able to limp the car back to the pit lane. At Monza, we were crashed out. At Spa, we were also crashed out. 2 different cars, but same kind of emotional weight and disappointment. We obviously wanted more for both races, but you know, as like all of us like to say in racing, that's just racing. It's incredibly unfortunate when it does happen, but it does happen. And although it is very disappointing, you have to learn at some point not to linger on it, because there was nothing we could do in that situation.
You do the best that you can to manage and not get in each other's way, but at the end of the day, it's a race. And these are all the same spec of cars, so everybody's pushing. And ultimately what happened to me during my second stint, 2 cars in front of me, they both touch, 1 car's trying to pass the other. The Lamborghini starts to spin, rolls backwards. The 3 of us who are right behind, we all scatter and trying to look for a way around this incident without getting caught up in it. All 3 of us go offline, trying to avoid the spinning Lamborghini. We all pick up dirt on our tires. We're in the gravel, we're offline, and all 3 of us go off track into the gravel trap. We all end up basically beaching ourselves right next to each other. And right as I'm coming to a stop, the Lamborghini hits the car next to me and pushes him into me. And it was just the slightest side-to-side contact. And as I got going again, realized something was wrong in the rear of the car. The clutch wouldn't grab, the transmission was really non-responsive. I couldn't find a gear. Ultimately, eventually made it back to pit lane, and the guys fixed the car up, put Samantha back in, and sent her back out for a couple laps. But it was pretty clear even after a couple laps that something was still wrong with the car.
To pull out from the 24-hour Spa after just 9 hours, it was an incredibly difficult decision for us. None of us obviously wanted to, but I think it was the right decision, and it was something that was necessary for us to do. For example, we knew that we were going to save all the tires that we didn't end up running during the 24-hour. I mean, they're literally, I think, around $3,000 a set. So you can imagine how much that adds up over the course of a 24-hour race. And on top of that, we knew we were going to be out of contention for the win, out of the contention for our podium. Nobody wants to pull out of a race, but again, I think it was the right decision. So the GT World Challenge America guys actually tried to convince me to, finish my night stint and pop over to the rave that was going on. I, unfortunately though, did not make it, but my cameraman did.
Is everybody ready to dance?
Turning me up, I break it down. Never the one to play around. You got next and we got now. Heavy the head that wear the crown. I've been running through the town, even when running ain't allowed. With my 10 toes on the ground. Yeah, you know what's going down, going down. Hey,